Pittsburgh Airport Commission meeting. Today is August 21st. It's 6:02 for the start of our meeting. My name is Commissioner Rich Liberatore, and I will be filling in for the chair seat from Clayton Raymond, who can't attend the meeting tonight. I want to introduce the commissioners that are present. From my far left is Commissioner Eric Takal. To my immediate left is Commissioner Paul Hathaway, and to my immediate right is the airport manager, Peter Kettle. Also with us tonight via Zoom is Gale Associate member Mark Otteriano. Close enough, right, Mark? Thank you. And I will remind everybody that FATV is recording this, and if anyone in the hall is recording, please make note. We're going to start the meeting off with the approval of the last month's meeting minutes. I'm sure everybody took a gander at them, found them all to be in proper order. Can I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Second. Can I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0 on the motion. Okay, to accept the minutes. All right, we're going to, for our first item, action items. We're going to cover those during the meeting.
We are going to cover them all.
Okay,
within.
very good. Thank you, Peter. Correspondence to the commission, there were none, I believe. All right. Okay, Gale review of ongoing work. Mark, can you bring us up to date of what's going on here at the airport?
Mark, just to let you know, I'm giving out the documents that you sent to me to all the commissioners.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Otteriano. I'm a project manager with Gale Associates. Figured introduce myself to everyone before we start. So Gale, we are administering the following projects on behalf of the airport. The first project is the environmental assessment and wildlife hazard assessment. So the draft wildlife hazard assessment was sent to the FAA and MassDOT on August 14th. We're just waiting to get comments back from that, and then that'll tell us whether we need a wildlife hazard management plan. Excuse me. If the wildlife hazard management plan is recommended, this project is already carrying the funding to complete the plan. So no other steps will be necessary, depending on the outcome of that determination whether they require a wildlife hazard management plan or not. Once we find out from the agencies, we'll be sure to update the commission. So the next project is the design and permitting for the main apron reconstruction. We just received the FAA funding in place for this. The grant was awarded and signed. We're still waiting on the MassDOT funding, however, but that's not, we've sort of gone ahead. The contract between Gale and the airport had been executed. We sent out our sub-consultant agreements. We have a geotechnical sub and surveying sub. The geotech work has already been completed, and we're still waiting for the geotech report. That typically takes 3 or 4 weeks to be completed. The surveying work is currently ongoing. I believe they've been out there for a couple of days. I think they have, they've indicated to us it's going to take them 2 weeks worth of time. We're hoping that it'll be a little bit quicker than that, but they are out there. They're doing their work. After they do the field work, we anticipate about a 4-week turnaround before we see the drafted survey. Once we get the geotech report and survey, we'll be able to start on the design and permit. The last project is the Groove Seal and Remark Runway 1432. The project is substantially complete. We do have a final inspection with Gale, representatives from the contractor, the airport, and MassDOT for next Tuesday at 10 a.m. on August 27th. Once we do the inspection, the contractor, if there are any outstanding items, the contractor will address them, and then we can begin the project closeout MassDOT. So those are the only items that I have tonight. So turn it over to everybody. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions for Mark?
I do. I'd just like to make a mention, Mark, that none of these items at this time need any input by the Commission. And,
correct.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, if there is a requirement for the plan to be recommended, how long will it take for that plan to be completed so that we can implement it at the time when it's on the CIP meeting?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll find out and I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Mark, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Alrighty. Okay, moving on, item 4. We've got the Fitchburg Pilot Association.
Yeah, there's nobody here. I was actually asked if we could give a discount on the fuel for the upcoming meeting this Saturday for the Young Eagles. And because of the situation that the city's in, I said we can't give a discount, but what I will do is honour the self-serve price as delivered from the truck. And that's the 30 cents off per gallon. Okay. So the airport still makes its regular money and they're happy.
Okay.
Okay?
That was creative. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we did it once before. What was it? Not last year, the year before, Peter. Didn't we give them at one of their events
We have done in the
a
past.
discount? You know, it's just so, I mean, for all the work they do and the service that they provide, why not? Why not help them out if we could? So, perfect. Very good. Thank you, Peter. Going on to new business. Number 1, noise abatement.
Yeah, the noise abatement, if you remember, we had to get this through the FAA approved on their chart supplement. When we spoke to them, I think it was in around about the end of May, early June, they said that they would do it in the next update on the noise on the chart supplement, which is August the 8th. It's already on there. I've had a look. It's on air now. It's on everything else. And that is, you've seen this, Paul, and you've made comments on it.
It's really, really
But
great.
that is the 2 that we put up at either end of both taxiway Alpha leading into Delta and also back to runway 32.
So you said August 8th is when those went up?
Yes.
Just one sign?
Well, they went up on August the 3rd,
Okay.
but it was put onto the chart supplement that everybody sees if they're a good pilot when they go into what's available for a pilot. It's on the chart supplement
So
at the FAA.
FAA has it posted,
They do.
right? And then we have our signs up.
Yes.
So a pilot coming in and then leaving, he's going to
He's
see
gonna
the
see it.
sign.
Absolutely
Right, So
right.
there's no question.
No, not at all.
Okay, so,
Was that issued as a NOTAM, Peter, or it's just as a chart supplement?
Chart supplement only.
Chart supplement only, that's right.
okay, any other
No.
comment? Okay. All right, we'll move into old business. RFP for non-aviation land lease. We have an update, Peter?
We do. We're actually waiting for the legal department to come up with a new agreement. I've been pushing this and I've been promised that it will be available within a week from this meeting. So it will be available by, let's say, 6 days, 5 days from now.
Weren't
And then
they-
the RFP will be sent out.
I thought this was already in the works to be sent out after our last meeting.
It was. But then I realized we didn't have a proper agreement for it.
Oh, okay.
So because it's totally different, this one's going in, this is only, remember,
For the restaurant?
Yes.
Right, okay. All right, so we're up to date on that then.
This is just the restaurant, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any comment, any question? Okay. Minimum standards, this is ongoing, and I know our chairperson, Clayton Raymond, is really taking this up. And he did ask us to review it for this meeting. And I'm going to be honest, I did go through it. And all the sections that in red, I'm just going to bring this out. It must have been some person with some kind of legal background to write this out, because a lot of the stuff that I'm reading is not clear. I'm struggling in trying to find what they're asking, what direction are they going in, you know. If it was, to me, I would probably say the wording definitely throws everybody off. So for us to come in and reinterpret what we have to do, this, for me, it's a struggle. So, and I hate to say it, it's going to be, this might be one of the items where we're going to have to go and sit down and bring up every single thing in the document that's in red. This is the last part of this document and bring it out, read it, and say, what's the interpretation? Because I'm not following.
Yeah, I've been remiss in my homework in not addressing it, but I agree with you. I think that, I think really what needs to happen is a reductive process with that document. You need to go in and just weed out huge amounts of it and get it back to at least a framework that makes sense, that's very easy to understand. And then I think that if there are nuances that need to be added back in, we add them back in. But right now, this is a soup pot with thousands of ingredients, and it tastes terrible. I think the process should be to start again with a simple soup, and there's the ingredients we need to add. We can add them as a team, but I think, to your point about sitting down and wading through that epic together is going to be very time-consuming, in the order of many hours. I mean, Mark Esterbrook's comments alone ran to the order of 8 pages or 9 pages.
Right.
So I'm totally willing. I've had a lot to do for the Planning Commission in Groton over the last 2 weeks, but next week I did intend to sit down and slice through that thing, cut the weeds out, and perhaps as a team we can look at it.
It seemed like there were issues brought up, like there's one section that speaks about the Airport Commission in the U.S. government, and I must have read that clause about 5 times, trying to say, when do we interact with the federal government? And the only time I can remember is when I was on the fire department as a director of emergency services, I dealt with MEMA at the state level. And if there was ever a situation, critical situation in Central Mass, our Fitchburg Airport would be a supply depot.
Sure.
And we would be working basically with the federal government along with MEMA. So I can see that, but the way it was worded, it's like, it has no parity.
I think there's a lot of 1950s war emergency power stuff in there that crept in from the Cold War, but it's still largely relevant by eminent domain. The federal government could take property at the airport in case of a conflict. But I think you're right. I mean, it's a combination of the old language, some legalese that got sprinkled liberally throughout it, and then several people's comments and interpretations.
Yeah.
Right now, it's gotten so murky, you can't see the forest for the trees.
No, it's dark, very dark. And again, for a plain, ordinary person who's trying to define what they're trying to bring out, what's the essence of the clause, I struggled. But I says, you know what, I'm just going to stick with it. And when we get together as a body in the chair, we're going to review these last few sections. There's not much more, to get through this. And then there's the bulk of the better part of it. But it's supposed to be minimum standards. It's gone like it's way off.
Too all-encompassing. It encompasses things that should not, per the comments we've had from the public and FPA, in fact. As I said, I had blocked out some time next week to kind of surgically remove the clutter, and then I'll even create 2 documents, which is the decluttered version, and then itemize the things that were removed and why, and we can maybe look at document 2 and go, no, you shouldn't have taken that out, or you should have. That makes sense to take that out.
Yeah. But to your point about the federal government, I mean, we deal with the FAA, certainly.
Yeah.
Does, the reason some of that's in there, like you said, war powers and things, would that come through the FAA in modern times and not be separate from that anyway? In other words, we just document interfaces with the FAA, with, state we deal with, Mass DOT pretty much, and our city, and that's pretty much it, right?
There's a lot of extra wording, and, as
Right.
Paul suggested, is let's clear away some of the weeds and, what are you asking for? Does it really pertain to update, versions? Does it really need to be in the document? And maybe we could water it down a little bit.
Yeah. Another comment I've had going through that is that there's some external references, and I brought this up before once it talks about the airport rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Do we have such a document, even if it's 1950s, 1970s? And should that also be on the table so we can correlate those and what's the the relationship between them
I think
as we go along.
I think, yeah, that's a good point. I think the answer was that they didn't really exist, that there are references to documents that may have existed or should exist, don't exist, or are made up on the spot. And I think that made some people uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, I guess, Peter, do you have the files of, is it possible to see if there is such a,
I don't know of any, and I've been in that office now for almost 5 years.
I think the minimum standards were the rules and regulations.
That's
of the
right.
airport. I mean, this is what,
That's
this is what
right.
the FAA is looking for, and they've been looking for since May, is, you have to have a set of operating parameters for a municipal airport in order for your grant money to flow through. And I think we're overcomplicating it, to be honest with you. I think it could be much simpler.
Yeah.
And also, it's a living document. So, other hat I wears and a planning board, and we amend the local ordinances on a town meeting basis. It's not impossible to update the minimum standards once they've been approved.
Better defined, too.
And I think that's a better process to get something simple done and then amend it iteratively and update the FAA and say, hey, we changed this section to address a certain issue we ran across. That's a better way to do it.
yeah.
I know the chair's put a timetable on it, but I don't see any benefit of trying to rush the document. Take it piece by piece, do it once, do it right, and then we'll move on.
As I say, even for the rules and so on, even if we had like a preface or something that's in this document that defines those basic things that you can refer to later, rather than putting those inserting them everywhere where you refer to that.
Right.
But figure out what you want to refer to and why.
Right, and so I think the peril was that, and we face this in other things I do, is that you can create overlapping, in order to try to create rules, quote unquote, for Fitchburg Airport, are you truly, there is already the federal air regulations, right? There's always Massachusetts general law, there's federal law, and so in the kind of well-intentioned sort of drive to be all-inclusive of anything that could happen, you can create contradictory regulations. And you're better off deferring to the FARs on most stuff. Like the federal air regulations cover pilot behavior, safety, operations. There's very little need to put any of that stuff in this document. Because who would enforce that? Would it be the Fitchburg Airport Police? There's no such thing.
No, I don't have
it would be the FAA, right? So it's always better to have things flow to the agency that would enforce it in case of a perceived violation, rather than try to regulate it yourself.
Right.
So as I said, I'm willing to take a pass through it next week, distribute it. Perhaps we could go through it at a future commission meeting, like a very simpler version.
Yeah, because what was presented in front of us, I know he said, Clayton asked us to be more concerned with what was in red. So going through that, it's like, okay, it's not making any sense. So I thought maybe as a group, we can better define that. And then we can weed what's positive and what's negative. Because right now, the document, to me, was very confusing to work with. And I didn't know which way to make a comment on it, so.
May I make a comment?
Yes, please.
In discussions with the chairman, he actually recommended that item B of old business and E of old business both are deferred to the next meeting, which is what you're asking for now. So
Okay.
if we just minute that,
Yeah, we'll
B and E.
But I just wanted to make my comment because as he had asked, I went through it and I just sort of was trying to find out from my fellow commissioners, are they struggling like I am? Because
Definitely.
for me, it's whoever wrote this back in the 19 somebodies, they were really,
Yeah, right now, it's a collection of thoughts and opinions, and it's many people's opinions and thoughts. It needs to be redacted to a basic framework that we can then add to. So happy to send Clayton a version of that. Obviously, we're going to be cognizant of open meeting law, right? So this has to be I could edit it and send a version to Clayton that he could then distribute at the next meeting.
Okay, that'll be good.
I think he indicated he and you could sit down together because
Yes,
there would be a
absolutely.
quorum.
We just can't have a
Yeah,
quorum.
Yeah.
yep. Or if you wanted to do more of what you're talking about, have everybody look at it, we could have us, pick a date and do an extended meeting, start it early if we can, here even, and go late.
I'd be happy to do that, just to get this banged out,
Yeah, it's just
Yep.
just to
to
get this.
minimize this and get it done right. Okay, so we'll move it on to the next meeting. We'll go into item C, the Crawford Street Safety Update.
First of all, Commissioner Erickson offers his apologies for not being at the meeting, but he did give me a current situation that he's been working on. He currently has a paving and roadway reconstruction contract out to bid. I included items for guardrail and milled rumble strips on Crawford Street. If we get decent pricing, we may be able to utilise Chapter 90 funding to have the work completed, one or the other or both. Bid opening is currently scheduled for September the 4th, so that's good. That's moving on. If we do not get good prices, we will have the Streets Division install chevrons mounted on signposts to delineate the curves in the problem area as previously discussed. So he's on top of it. We're just waiting for September the 4th. Okay?
And we haven't had any kind of incident there for a while.
Did you see the skid marks that went up
Oh,
to the
no,
corner
no.
and then they stopped and they came back on? They didn't hit the...
Well, the one corner, there is a chevron that was pretty badly overgrown. I did notice that recently. So,
Okay. Well, we've been working on the Fitchburg end side of Crawford Street all the way down. I don't know if you've been up just recently. It looks
No,
really
I
nice.
usually go out of my way.
It's all down.
Yeah.
And we've cut down the main entrance leading into the airport. That looks nice now. So,
Great.
and we'll start going the other side. It's just time and money,
Where specifically is the problem where you're saying there's skid marks?
Do you know where the place is that sells the cannabis?
I've
That
seen it,
corner
yeah.
that goes around there, the skid marks, and they start to turn, and then they stop, and they obviously stopped, and then they turned back onto the road and went. They didn't hit the fence, thank goodness.
it's a curve that kind of sneaks up on you in the dark
Okay.
or the winter.
I mean, I've driven that quite a few times, but I just never noticed.
We haven't done it in a small car at 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And again, we want to make sure this is all set, because once we get new fencing, 10-foot fencing, that's going to be even harder to repair and very expensive when vehicles are going through it. So if we can nip it in the bud now and take care of it, then we could relax when the fence update comes in. All right, gentlemen, thank you. D, the Rocking Horse Enterprises, Peter.
That is still ongoing. The drawings are still being prepared to present to the planning board. Well, obviously to the commission first and then to the planning board. And the good thing is that we now have 16 interested parties to buy a hangar. 16.
Now, you're not advertising, this is just word of mouth within the airport.
Well, I've sent an email out
family.
to everybody, and I've also contacted Mama and told them,
Okay.
and that's 37 airports in Massachusetts.
All
So
right, all right, that's good.
we are
No,
sort of
you-
advertising.
Oh, they'll fill them.
And we appreciate that, for sure. All right, well, thank you, Peter.
That'll be good fuel revenue.
Absolutely.
After-hour bathrooms?
Yeah, that's what I said. B and E defer to next meeting.
Okay, we'll defer that to the next meeting. We'll get into F, Nature's to go here.
Your naturals to go.
Naturals to go.
That's going really, really well. And Paul, I'm surprised you haven't been in and tried one of the sandwiches.
I'm going to come.
They are delicious. They really are. A couple of people have come in the businesses and said,
Yep.
Peter, what are the sandwiches like? I said, I'm not going to tell you. Buy it and you tell me. And they both came back saying, have these just been made? They're really, really good. And apparently, these two people that are doing this, they've got another 5 other vending machines in different parts of the town at different businesses.
Right.
And they'd been up a month, and we've already taken them over by sales at the airport.
Great.
Which is really good.
Yeah.
So they're delighted.
I'll have to come check it out.
They're delighted.
So your staff is very happy with it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
And
I have one every day. They're good.
this is once a week they're renewing the products?
Well, it depends. The first 2 days we sold out, and they came in the next morning and stocked them up again.
Okay.
This is the sort of service that they've got.
Yeah.
Going to go out of my way
Which
to
is
stop
excellent.
in.
No, you should.
I will.
You should.
Certainly will.
And that's coming off the agenda, by the way, so I'll take that off.
Okay, so that's all set.
Yes.
All right.
And G, we've already covered.
Okay, the noise abatement, we're all set there. All right. Financial review, approval of commitments and abatements.
We do have a problem on the financial side because one of the ladies that worked on this purely within the city for the airport to do all the billing and receiving of the checks is out of work at the moment, and there's nobody really trained to do that job. So August invoices have not been sent out yet, and September won't be out either. But in discussions with Debbie, who's now retired, she's agreed to go in and help. But that's coming out of our budget.
Okay.
But I thought it was worthwhile in order to get the job done and get the money into the city or into the airport.
Yeah, we don't want to
I
postpone
did.
that.
Yeah, I
You
did
wanna-
give you some bad information at the last meeting. I told you that we were in the black by $19,000. I've now got the official results. We're now in the black by $36,000.
Very good, very good. That's news that we can very well accept, that's for sure.
Well, that's remarkable, given the improvements that have been made to the airport over the last, even just the last year.
Yeah.
I mean, normally you enter into you incur some serious running to do the kind of updates that have been
we've
effected
done.
at the airport, so that's very encouraging. And it's, you're planting a seed for turbofan, turboprop operations that'll bring real revenue in. It's great.
That's why, hopefully, this Rocking Horse Enterprises, if this pans out the way we're hoping,
gonna be brilliant.
this could be the start of something huge, you know? Again, the airport growing, positive direction, bringing in more aircraft, more aviators. I mean, that's what it's all about, so. All right. There is no executive session for tonight's meeting. And the date and time of our next regular meeting will be September 18th at 6 p.m. here. And if there's nothing else, and if no one has any comments, make a motion, we adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Record.